Amidst Maldives' growing tilt towards China, the International Monetary Fund has warned the island nation that it is at a high risk of debt distress. After Muizzu's U-turn on Maldives' India First policy, Male has increased borrowing from China. Meanwhile, the IMF has now called for the need for urgent policy adjustment. The IMF maintains that without significant policy changes, the overall fiscal deficits and public debt are projected to stay elevated. Notably, the IMF warning comes at a time when several countries in the Indian subcontinent, including Pakistan and Sri Lanka, are already reeling from the consequences of borrowing heavily from China. Ajay Jandyal, my colleague, joins us on the phone line to talk more about this. Ajay, it seems that another country, by its own doing and foolishness, is going to get into the Chinese debt trap, and there's nothing India should do about it.
Well, you rightly said, and we have seen that, during the previous government, when Maldives was, having very good relation with India, what we have seen that Maldives was growing accordingly what it was required, and whether it was the tourism and other ties with India, that was, flourishing during the previous government. But right after Muizzu take over the Maldives as a, president, what has happened that things have started changing. We have seen that immediately after he, took over in Maldives, he preferred to go to China for his first visit, and China has promised more funding to Maldives ever since Beijing Muizzu assumed power last year. So Muizzu, who defeated a pro-India, President Ibrahim Mohammed Soli, made his first international trip to Beijing after assuming office, and he thanked China after his visit for its selfless assistance for development funds. But everyone knows that China basically is investing there just to strengthen their, threats, whatever China was feeling that it could be a threat, and that's why he wants to strengthen his...
Ajay, hold on to that thought. Senior economist Dr. Sharad Kohli also joins us this morning to talk about this. Dr. Kohli, a very good morning to you. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you, Vineet. Good morning.
Right. Dr. Kohli, would this analogy, befit Maldives perfectly, that they, in fact, have made every attempt to shoot themselves in the foot?
Undoubtedly. I mean, look at the number of tourists. India was sending most number of tourists to Maldives, before this thing happened. And I think it is actually shooting oneself on the foot because for a country which is primarily dependent on tourism. I mean, tourism, little bit of agriculture, and other sectors are very, very minuscule. So for a country which is primarily dependent on tourism, I think it is actually shooting on your foot if you try and do something to the place from where most number of tourists are coming. So I think I call this as a recipe for disaster, Vineet, because they have spelled doom for themselves, and for what? Just because they wanted to ride on China's back. And China, I think, little do they know. I'm very surprised if they don't know about it, that China can never be an all-weather friend. China has got a very, very strong vested interest. China looks to pledge properties of the countries. The checkbook diplomacy which works in China is known across the world. So I'm not sure why a country like Maldives, a tiny country like Maldives, would like to ride on the back of China and depend on China and trust China when it is going to be done one day or the other. So I think President Muizzu is going to regret his, his overall foreign policy. And I think India has been an all-weather friend for the countries which it has friendly relations with. India has come to the rescue of so many nations, including Sri Lanka. There's so many nations where India has kept its own vested interests aside and done a very, very, I would say, selfless service. So I think Maldives is in for trouble, and I don't know for a country, I mean, who's going to visit the beaches? I don't know how many Chinese tourists are going to come there, Vineet, and how long will this sustain? I mean, it may look rosy as of now that President Muizzu thinks that he's going to probably, fill up those missing tourists from China. But I really doubt, because strategically speaking, Maldives is quite far from China.
All right.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.